Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Nowhere to Hide, a Korean action comedy from 1999. The story takes place over several weeks in the port city where drug deals abound. In broad daylight, a drug boss is viciously stabbed to death by the drug lord Chang Sungmin. Detective Woo is the cunning police detective who pursues the elusive Sungmin in a maze-like chase. Along the way, Woo and his men hunt down and apprehend the nefarious figures of the drug world, but Sungmin remains at large, a master of disguise and escape until the final showdown. Now, to be perfectly honest, I cannot believe that I'm about to give this movie a positive review. The first time I saw it was back in 2007, per my notes, and I really disliked it. I thought it was stupid, to be frank. And that's how I would have described the movie back then. Just stupid. But I think my main problem was that I failed to realize and recognize the comedic aspects within it. And one of the reasons for that may have been because a lot of people back in the day were talking this movie up, saying it was some kind of masterpiece. That's all I heard about this movie back in the early 2000s on the message boards. Nowhere to Hide, it's a masterpiece, you know? And I still disagree with that, by the way. But during my recent rewatch, I took more of a laid-back approach, and I actually enjoyed it, unbelievably. So the film begins in black and white, with like rhythmic music and some overacting. Then you get some step framing, which is one of the worst editing inventions in the history of cinema. Alright? And if you've never seen step framing before, it basically looks like the scene is being presented in like 5 frames per second. You know, lots of hard cuts, makes it seem like you're being shown a series of pictures instead of a motion picture. I hate the effect like 90+% of the time. I think Wong Kar-wai used it well in a few movies and not so well in others. It's just an example. But the fight scenes early on in this movie are kind of a joke. You get freeze frames, you get more step framing, and seemingly incompetent direction. And then we get a song from the Bee Gees, as well as some other high-energy music that just kind of feels out of place for a film, a Korean film of this kind. And when I was watching it again, it's no wonder I hated this movie the first time I saw it. Kind of an obnoxious opening. Nowhere to Hide is, I would say, kind of schmaltzy and stupid in some ways, and I can't really take it seriously, you know, as like a serious story. Like, for example, our cop protagonist, he's driving in a regular car. Alright, not a cop car. And another cop car kind of spots them. They're just going to pull them over for a particular reason, right? The lights start flashing. And this cop inside the car, who's like, you know, undercover or whatever, he just pulls out a pair of handcuffs and dangles them out the window of the car. Like, he just dangles the handcuffs. And the cop car turns off its lights and pulls away. So remember that. Next time, like, you're out and a cop tries to pull you over because your taillight's out, or maybe you were going above the speed limit, just have a pair of like toy handcuffs in your car and just roll down the window, just hang out a pair of toy handcuffs out your window, and the cop will just let you go. I'm sure it'll work in real life, right? But like this is the type of stuff you get in this movie. And I mentioned like the fighting, it's not very good. Here's another example. There's a scene where a guy gets punched on a rooftop, and he flies back like it's an Evil Dead movie. Remember the first Evil Dead? With like the crazy camera work and effects where the guy's flying backwards through like the forest? That's kind of similar to what you have here. And then the fight shifts. You don't even see most of it. It shifts to like shadows on a wall. You know what I mean? And then you have some goofy chase scenes. So, you know, this threw me for a loop the first time I saw it. Because I was expecting in this masterpiece properly choreographed action, right? Like, realistic story, you know what I mean? And just, like, legit, just, like, high-quality traditional filmmaking. Not goofy shenanigans, but you get a lot of goofy shenanigans in this. But, if you go into this film expecting almost, like, a half-satire of tough guy action crime flicks, it's pretty watchable, actually. You know, so if you go into it with a different frame of mind, it's pretty, it's kind of fun to watch. And coming from that perspective, the exaggeration and the goofiness within it kind of complement it instead of become a detriment. And I'm not entirely sure what the intention was with this movie. I read a few critic reviews, and then a few of the reviews explicitly mentioned the comedic aspects and the humor within it. So I think it was kind of an intentional thing the filmmaker was going for. But even if it isn't, just go into the movie with that expectation. It's kind of goofy. And you have an odd presentation, gives it a very unconventional feel. And I'll give the film credit as well that it's a little bit different from a lot of films out there. It has a different feel to it. You know what I mean? And anytime you watch a movie that has a little bit of a different feel, something that's not something you see every day, you got to give it some credit in that regard, and I do in this case. But the biggest positive of this film, in my opinion, is it's fast-paced, and you have action and crime-related stuff happening almost all the time. There's a little bit of filler in there, but not much. It moves at a pretty brisk pace. And if you could get into the groove with kind of its oddness, you'll probably enjoy it. Another selling point is the cast. An Sung-ki is like a legend in Korean cinema. He's the bad guy. And I don't think he talks at all throughout the entire film, but he makes an impact. Like, he's really fun to watch as the bad guy in this. Loads of screen presence. Jang Dong-gung is the supporting lead. Always like seeing him. A lot of people know him from the Korean movie Friend, as well as Taekook-ji. And then we have Park Joong-hoon, who is the lead of the film. And this was the film that kind of put him on my bad side early on in his career. I wasn't the biggest fan of Park Joong-hoon. Did not like his performance in Liss, and that kind of tainted my opinion of him. Coming back to it again recently with a different perspective, I like his performance more, but again, I still feel like, I don't know, it still irritates me a little bit. You know, maybe a little bit too over the top, in my opinion. But given what the film is going for, it was probably the right thing to do. As an added bonus, some of the supporting actors are recognizable, either from other movies or K-dramas. Now, the director is a man by the name of Myung-se. Myung-se. I gave this guy a lot of flack on message boards back in the day. I mean, I laid into this guy a lot. Primarily because of this movie, but also the action flick Duelist, which had some incredibly ineffective fight scenes in that film. But now, I actually want to give Duelist a second chance. Because I kind of like Nowhere to Hide now. So this really is Bizarro World. I never thought I'd come back to these movies and actually enjoy them. So this is not the typical like glowing review of this movie that you may have seen in Asian cinema circles back in the mid-2000s. But I do moderately recommend Nowhere to Hide. If you're looking for like a different kind of action comedy with an oddball style to it, you may want to check it out. It's currently available on DVD. That's the easiest way to find it. And I think you could get it for a pretty reasonable price if you want to take a shot. But I know there's some big fans out there that maybe didn't like the tone of this review. But that's how I feel about it. But I do like it now. I do. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.